My name is Cayenne, and I wake every morning in Sheriff City wondering if today will be the day they send me to die. The kitchen barracks smell like old grease and sweat, a thick odor that clings to my clothes no matter how many times I wash them. I haul water buckets, scrub pots until my knuckles bleed, and chop vegetables until my fingers cramp. The work exhausts me, but I prefer exhaustion to death. Around me, other workers move through their tasks with hunched shoulders and downcast eyes. We all know the truth that nobody speaks aloud. Do well enough, and they promote you. Get promoted, and they ship you to the infantry. Join the infantry, and you die. I've watched 3 men leave this kitchen in the past 2 months, their faces bright with foolish pride. None came back. My hands shake sometimes when I think about it. The waiting feels worse than knowing. Every time an officer enters the barracks, my stomach twists into knots. I imagine them pointing at me, calling my name, dragging me away to some battlefield where arrows fall like rain and swords taste blood. But I'm not going to let that happen. I've decided. I'll choose my own path before they choose it for me. The archer unit. That's where I need to be. Archers stand at a distance. Archers have better odds. Archers survive. The problem is simple. I know nothing about archery. I spend my free afternoon searching through the storage areas of the barracks, pushing aside crates, and peering into forgotten corners. This makes me cough. Spiderwebs catch in my hair. Then I find it. An old bow. It's would darken with age, its string frayed but intact. My heart pounds as I lift it. The weight feels strange in my hands, foreign and promising all at once. I also gather a few arrows. They're fletching bent and worn. They'll have to do. That evening, I approach Elderway. He's an older man who works the grain stores, his back permanently curved from years of lifting sacks. His eyes are kind, though, and he sometimes shares extra rice when the officers aren't watching. Elderway, I say, keeping my voice low, I need help. He looks up from his counting, one eyebrow raised. What kind of help gets a kitchen worker so nervous? I want to learn archery. I found a bow, but I don't know how to use it. Do you have anything that could teach me? A book, maybe? Elderway studies my face for a long moment. I wonder if he'll laugh, or worse, report me for having ideas above my station. Instead, he sets down his counting board and moves to a wooden chest in the corner. From inside, he pulls out a thin manual, its cover stained and pages yellowed. My son used this, he says quietly, before they sent him to the infantry. He presses the book into my hands. The bow I cannot give you, but knowledge I can share. Read quickly, practice quietly, and Cayenne, aim for survival, not glory. I bow deeply, clutching a manual to my chest. Thank you, Elderway. I won't forget this. Back in my sleeping area, I light a small oil lamp and open the manual. The words leap out at me. Stance, grip, draw, anchor, release, follow through. My eyes race across the pages, drinking in every detail. How to position my feet, how to hold my shoulders, how to breathe through the shot. The information floods my mind, and I read each section twice, then 3 times, burning the instructions into my memory. But reading about archery and actually shooting are entirely different things. The next morning, before my kitchen duties begin, I sneak to a quiet corner behind the barracks where no officers patrol. I bring the old bow and my handful of arrows. Setting up a makeshift target, a sack stuffed with straw propped against the wall, I take my stance. My hands tremble as I nock the first arrow. The string feels too tight. The bow feels too heavy. I try to remember everything from the manual, but my body refuses to cooperate. My fingers fumble. My arms shake. When I finally release, the arrow veers left and strikes the wall 3 feet from the target. Frustration burns in my chest. I retrieve the arrow and try again. And again. My shoulders begin to ache. My fingers grow raw from the string. Each shot goes wide or falls short. The gap between understanding and execution feels impossibly vast. I force myself to breathe, to think. The manual said to focus on form before accuracy. One step at a time. I adjust my stance, widen my feet. I concentrate on keeping my bow arm straight. I anchor the string to the same spot on my cheek each time. The sun climbs higher. Sweat runs down my back. My arms burn with exhaustion. But slowly, Gradually, something begins to click. My body starts to remember the positions. The movements flow slightly smoother. I release an arrow, and it strikes the outer edge of the target. My heart leaps. I did it. Just once, but I did it. I practice until I hear voices approaching, then quickly hide the bow and arrows behind some empty crates. Throughout my kitchen work that day, my mind replays each shot, analyzing what worked and what didn't. That night, I read the manual again, and the words make more sense now that I've felt them in my body. Days blur together. I steal time whenever possible. Early mornings, late evenings, brief moments between tasks. My accuracy improves. Not quickly and not easily, but it improves. I start hitting the target more often than I miss it. One morning, I arrive at my practice spot to find Elder Wei standing there, his arms crossed, watching the target. "I wondered when you'd notice me," he says. My face flushes hot. "I didn't mean to. I was just—" "Relax, boy. Show me what you've learned." My hands shake worse than ever as I knock an arrow under his scrutiny. Everything I've practiced threatens to evaporate from my mind. I focus on my breathing like the manual taught. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Find a stillness between heartbeats. I draw, anchor, release. The arrow flies straight and strikes just left of center on the target. Elder Wei nods slowly. Again, I shoot again. This arrow hits even closer to the middle. A small smile tugs at my lips despite my nervousness. "Your form needs work," Elder Wei says, stepping closer. "Your elbow drops when you release, and you're gripping too tight. The bow isn't trying to escape. Hold it like you'd hold a bird. Firm enough to keep it, gentle enough not to crush it." I absorb his words, grateful beyond measure. He watches me shoot several more times, offering small corrections. By the time we finish, my grouping has tightened noticeably. "Elder Wei, how do you know so much about archery?" His expression grows distant. "My son taught me a few things before he left. I watched him practice just like this." He turns away. "Keep at it, Kyan. You have potential." Word of my practice must spread somehow, because other kitchen workers start drifting by during my sessions. They watch from a distance, whispering to each other. Some look impressed. Others seem skeptical. I catch fragments of their conversations. "Did you see that shot?" "Lucky, probably. Kitchen boy thinks he's special now." Their doubt stings, but I use it. Each whispered criticism becomes fuel for another hour of practice. Each skeptical glance pushes me to aim truer, shoot stronger. I'll prove myself. I have to. Finally, the day comes when Elder Wei brings an officer to watch me shoot. My stomach churns with anxiety. This is my chance. This could change everything or destroy everything. The archery arena is larger than my practice spot, more official, with proper targets set at measured distances. Other workers gather around the edges, their eyes tracking my every movement. The pressure threatens to crush me. Elder Wei stands off to the side, his face neutral, but his eyes encouraging. I remember his words about his son. I remember why I'm doing this. I take my stance. The bow feels like an extension of my arm now, familiar and trusted. I knock an arrow and draw, feeling the string's tension mirror the tension in my chest. The target's center becomes my entire world. Everything else fades away. The watchers, the whispers, the fear. I release. The arrow strikes dead center with a satisfying thunk. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. I don't look at them. I knock another arrow immediately, finding that calm space in my mind again. Draw, anchor, release. Another center hit. 5 arrows. 5 shots. For hit the center, 1 slightly off. The officer approaches, examining my grouping. "How long have you been practicing?" 2 weeks, sir." My voice comes out steadier than I feel. He looks surprised. 2 weeks? And before that? "I never held a bow before, sir." Elder Wei steps forward. "I can confirm that. I've been observing his progress. The boy has genuine talent." The officer studies me with new interest. I stand straight, meeting his gaze despite my racing heart. This is the moment. Everything depends on what he says next. "We'll add you to the roster for the archery trials next month," the officer finally says. "If you perform this well under pressure, you'll have a place in the archery unit." Relief floods through me so intensely that my knees almost buckle. "Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you." As the officer leaves, the watching workers begin to disperse. Some nod at me with newfound respect. Others still look doubtful. I don't care about them right now. I find Elder Wei's face in the crowd. He smiles, truly smiles, and gives me a small nod of approval. I've taken my first real step away from the infantry, away from certain death. But I know this is just the beginning. The archery trials will be harder, the competition fiercer. I'll need to push myself beyond what I've already learned. I'll need to become better than good. I'll need to become excellent. I pull back the bowstring, feeling the familiar tension in my shoulders. The arrow flies straight, thudding into the target's center. Good, but not good enough. Elder Wei stands a few paces behind me, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. I can feel his eyes on me, measuring, judging. Again, he says, his voice like gravel scraping stone. I reach for another arrow, but he stops me with a raised hand. "3," he says simply. My fingers freeze. 3 arrows? At once. The tournament will test more than accuracy. Speed matters. Adaptation matters. He moves closer, and I smell the pine smoke that clings to his robes. "Knock 3 arrows. Hold them steady between your fingers. Feel their weight." I select 3 arrows from my quiver, my hands uncertain. The shafts feel awkward pressed together, the fletching trying to separate. I position them carefully between my first, second, and third fingers. Your grip must be light, like holding water. Elder Wei's voice is quiet now, almost gentle. Too tight, and they scatter. Too loose, and they fall. The morning sun beats down on the archery arena. Sweat trickles down my temple. Around us, other recruits practice their own drills, their bows creaking, arrows whistling. But I focus on the 3 shafts in my hand, trying to make them feel like one. I draw back. The tension is different now, unbalanced. The arrows want to drift apart. "Breathe," Elder Wei reminds me. I exhale slowly and let the arrows fly. They spray wide. One hits the outer ring. One strikes the target's edge. The third buries itself in the dirt 6 feet to the left. Frustration burns in my chest. I reach for 3 more arrows, but movement catches my eye. General Tan stands at the arena's entrance, his arms crossed, watching. His face is unreadable, carved from stone. Does he see my failure? Will he remember this when I try to join the archer unit? I force myself to focus. Elder Wei hasn't commented on my miss. He simply waits. This time, I adjust my grip. I feel the arrows' individual weights. Let them rest more naturally against each other. I draw back smoothly, the bowstring kissing my cheek. The target blurs slightly in my vision, but I hold steady. Release. 3 thuds, quick as heartbeats. All 3 arrows cluster in the inner ring, close enough that their shafts nearly touch. "Better," Elder Wei says. There's something in his voice that might be approval. Practice this until your fingers remember it without thought. The mind is too slow in battle. I nod, reaching for more arrows. My arms ache already, but I can't stop now. Not with General Tan still watching from the shadows. By the time the sun reaches its peak, I can place all 3 arrows within the center circle most times. My fingers are raw, my shoulders burning, but satisfaction fills me. This technique will set me apart. This will prove I belong in the archer unit. Elder Wei finally nods. Enough for today. The registry opens soon. I gather my arrows, cleaning the dirt from their tips. As I turn to leave, I catch General Tan's gaze one more time. He gives the slightest nod, then walks away. Did he approve? Or did I just paint a target on my own back? The recruitment line for the archer unit stretches across the courtyard like a snake basking in the sun. I count at least 30 recruits ahead of me, maybe more. They talk in clusters, their voices rising and falling like waves. Some look confident, their bows polished and expensive. Others fidget, uncertain. I take my place at the line's end, shifting my weight from foot to foot. The stone pavement radiates heat through my boots. "Move aside." I turn. 3 recruits push past me, their shoulders knocking against mine. The tallest one, wearing a blue silk tunic that marks him as merchant class, doesn't even look at me as he cuts into the line 10 spots ahead. "Hey," I start, but my voice comes out weak. No one else in line protests. Some look away. Others just shrug. My jaw clenches. I step forward, ready to challenge them. But another recruit slips past me while my attention is divided. Then another. This is ridiculous, I mutter. A girl next to me, maybe a year younger, shakes her head. Just let it go. They have connections. We don't. Connections shouldn't matter. This is about skill. She laughs, bitter. You really believe that? I watch as the line moves forward without me, as more people find excuses to push ahead. The merchant's son laughs with his friends, completely unbothered. My hands curl into fists. All that training with Elder Way, all those hours perfecting the 3-arrow technique, it means nothing if I can't even get through the registry. The sun climbs higher. Sweat soaks through my tunic. The line shrinks, but I've barely moved forward. At this rate, they'll close registration before I reach the front. No, I didn't train this hard to be pushed aside. I step out of line and walk forward, my heart hammering. The merchant's son is almost at the registration table now, where General Tan sits reviewing applications. I position myself directly beside him. Excuse me, I say, loud enough that others turn a look. I believe I was ahead of you. The merchant's son finally looks at me. His eyes are cold. I don't think so, peasant. I was here first. You cut in line. He smirks. Prove it. Blood rushes in my ears. Around us, the courtyard has gone quiet. General Tan's pen stops moving. He looks up, his expression sharp. Is there a problem? General Tan's voice cuts through the tension. The merchant's son opens his mouth, but I speak first. No problem, sir. I'm just claiming my rightful place in line. I've trained for this. I've earned a right to register fairly, not to be pushed aside because I don't have family gold. The silence stretches. General Tan's eyes move from me to the merchant's son, then to the long line of recruits watching with held breath. Step forward, General Tan says to me. Register now. The merchant's son's face flushes red. But you'll wait your turn, like everyone else. My hand shakes slightly as I approach the table, but I keep my head high. I can feel the stares burning into my back. Some recruits look angry. Others nod with quiet respect. I made enemies today, but I've also proven something to myself. I give my name, my village, my experience. General Tan writes it all down without expression. When he finishes, he looks up at me. Report at dawn tomorrow. The real testing begins then. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. As I turn away, relief floods through me. I did it. I am registered. But the relief is short-lived because General Tan's next words reach the entire courtyard. All Archer Unit candidates will undergo strength testing before final placement. Those who fail will be assigned to infantry. My stomach drops. Strength testing? For archers? Murmurs ripple through the crowd. This wasn't announced before. Why change the requirements now? I look back at General Tan, but he's already calling the next recruit forward. The merchant's son steps up, shooting me a venomous glare that promises this isn't over. Dawn comes too quickly. The testing area is a wide dirt field behind the barracks, already crowded with nervous recruits. I spot Bjorn near the front, his massive frame making everyone else look small. He'll have no problem with strength tests. But me? I'm built for precision, not power. General Tan stands on a raised platform, his hands behind his back. The morning light makes his armor gleam like bronze fire. When he speaks, his voice carries across the field without strain. Archery requires strength. Drawing a war bow repeatedly in battle demands muscle. Holding position under physical stress separates soldiers from children. He gestures, and several guards roll out stone blocks, each the size of a large melon. You will lift these blocks. Hold them at shoulder height. Maintain position for a full minute without dropping or lowering. The blocks look heavy. Too heavy. I've built strength in my back and shoulders from drawing the bow. But this is different. This tests raw muscle. This is unfair, someone mutters near me. General Tan's head snaps toward the voice. War is unfair. The enemy doesn't care about your complaints. These standards come from the marshal himself. If you cannot meet them, you have no place in the archer unit. My mind races. Why would the marshal suddenly add strength requirements? Archers need stamina, accuracy, focus, not the ability to lift heavy stones. Something feels wrong about this, but questioning General 10 openly would end my chances immediately. The testing begins. One by one, recruits step forward. Some lift the blocks easily, their faces barely straining. Others struggle, their arms shaking, the stone crashing down before the minute passes. Those who fail are marked down, their faces pale with disappointment. I watch Bjorn step forward. He lifts the stone block like it weighs nothing, holding it steady while General Tan counts slowly. When the minute ends, Bjorn sets it down gently and nods. Pass, General Tan announces. More recruits go. The merchant's son from yesterday lifts the block, his face turning red, veins standing out on his neck. But he holds it. He passes. My turn approaches. I shake out my arms, trying to prepare. My shoulders already ache from yesterday's training. Elder Wei's voice echoes in my memory. Strength isn't just muscle. It's will. I step forward. The stone block is cool under my palms, rough and unforgiving. I bend my knees, grip tight, and lift. Weight. So much weight. My arms scream immediately. I force the block to shoulder height, my whole body trembling with effort. General Tan begins counting. 1, 2, 3. My vision narrows. Sweat pours down my face. The block feels like it's getting heavier with each second, pulling me down. 15, 16, 17. My arms shake violently. I lock my elbows, shift my stance slightly. Just hold on. Just don't drop it. 30, 31. Halfway. I can do this. I have to do this. Infantry means the front lines, the brutal close combat. I need to be an archer. It's who I am. 45, 46. The world reduces to pain and the stone block. My muscles burn like fire. Black spots dance at the edges of my vision. 58, 59, 60. Time. I lower the block as carefully as my shaking arms allow. It thuds into the dirt, and I nearly collapse on top of it. My lungs heave, dragging in air that tastes like dust and victory. Pass, General Tan says, his voice neutral. I stumble away on weak legs, but satisfaction fills my chest. I did it. Against my own doubts, I proved I belong here. But as I reach the edge of the testing area, I overhear voices. 2 guards standing near the water barrels, talking quietly. 50 pounds. That's excessive for archers. Orders from above. The marshal wants only the strongest this year. But half the best archers can't lift that much. We're going to lose skilled shooters to foot soldiers. Not our decision. I lean against a post, my arms still trembling. Why would the marshal set requirements that eliminate skilled archers? What's really happening here? Bjorn finds me by the water barrel. His face is serious, more serious than I've seen before. He glances around, then speaks low. Something's not right about these tests. I know. I heard the guards talking. 50 pounds is more than that. Bjorn leans closer. I saw Guardian Wei earlier. He looked angry, really angry. He was arguing with General Tan. About the tests? Couldn't hear clearly, but Guardian Wei kept saying the standards were wrong, that they'd been changed without proper authority. Bjorn's eyes meet mine. Cayenne, what if these tests aren't about finding good archers? What if they're designed to fail people on purpose? The thought settles in my stomach like a stone. I think of the merchant's son, his expensive clothes and confident smirk. I think of how quickly he passed the test, despite clearly struggling. And I think of General Tan's expressionless face as he watched us all suffer. But why? I ask. That's what we need to find out. Bjorn straightens as more recruits approach the water. But carefully, very carefully, more recruits face the stone blocks as the morning wears on. Some pass, proud and relieved. Others fail, their dreams of joining the archer unit crushed. Each failure means another soldier sent to infantry, another skilled archer lost. Guardian Wei appears at the testing area's edge. His weathered face is tight with barely controlled anger. He watches General Tan for a long moment, and even from here, I can feel the tension crackling between them. This isn't about training standards. This is about something deeper, something political. and I've just stepped into the middle of it. The testing area erupted with angry voices. Bjorn stood at the center of the crowd, his face red and his fists clenched at his sides. He jabbed a thick finger toward the stone that had supposedly weighed the same for everyone. "This is wrong." Bjorn's voice carried over the murmurs. "I watched 3 men lift that stone this morning. It didn't budge like that for any of them. Someone's been tampering with the weights." Other recruits shifted closer, nodding. A lean man with a scar across his cheek spoke up. "He's right. My brother tried earlier and barely got it off the ground. Now it moves like it's hollow." The grumbling grew louder. More voices joined in, complaints stacking on top of each other until the noise became a wave. I stood at the edge of the gathering, watching Bjorn's shoulders square as he found his courage. "General Ten should explain this," Bjorn continued. "We deserve fair treatment. We all paid the entry fee. We all deserve an honest chance." General Tan sat on a wooden platform overlooking the testing grounds. He didn't even look up from the scroll he was reading. His assistant, a wiry man with a thin mustache, whispered something in his ear. The general waved his hand dismissively, like he was brushing away a fly. "Your complaints are noted," the assistant called out in a bored tone. "Next." Bjorn's face went from red to purple. "Noted? That's all. You're just going to ignore us." The assistant didn't respond. He simply pointed to the next testing station where a wooden practice dummy stood waiting. Several recruits exchanged dark looks, but no one moved forward. The air felt thick with anger and frustration. I could taste the bitterness on my tongue, metallic and sharp. A hand gripped Bjorn's shoulder. An older recruit, someone who looked like he'd been through this before, shook his head slowly. "Not worth it, friend. You keep pushing, and they'll have you thrown out before sunset. Maybe worse." Bjorn's jaw worked back and forth, grinding his teeth. Finally, he stepped back into the crowd. The tension didn't fade, though. It hung there, waiting. I took a breath and stepped forward. My legs felt steadier than I expected. Maybe it was because I'd been watching, learning from everyone else's mistakes. Or maybe it was the memory of Elder Wei's words echoing in my mind. Confidence in your form matters more than raw strength. Your body knows what to do if your mind stays clear. The stone sat there, gray and solid. It looked impossibly heavy. General Tin glanced up from his scroll. His eyes found mine, and something flickered in his expression. Interest, maybe, or calculation. "Another volunteer?" he asked. His voice was smooth, cultured, nothing like the rough soldiers I'd grown up around in my village. "Yes, sir." My voice came out stronger than I felt inside. The doubt crept in as I approached the stone. What if Bjorn was right? What if this was rigged? What if I embarrassed myself in front of everyone, including the general, who seemed to be actually paying attention now? My palms started to sweat. I wiped them on my pants. The other recruits watched me. I could feel their stares on my back like physical weight. Some probably wanted me to fail. Others, like Bjorn, might be hoping I'd succeed just to prove the test could be beaten fairly. I crouched down beside the stone. The surface was cool under my fingers, rough with tiny pits and grooves. I positioned my hands where Elder Wei had taught me to grip things during our training sessions. He made me practice lifting water buckets, logs, even river stones, always correcting my form. "Your legs do the work," he'd said. "Your back stays straight. Your core stays tight." I locked my fingers under the edge, took a breath, held it. Then I pushed through my heels and lifted. The stone rose. Not easily, but it rose. My muscles burned. My legs trembled. But the stone came up off the ground, past my knees, up to my waist. I held it there for a 3 count, just like the instructions demanded. When I set it down, it landed with a heavy thud that sent dust puffing into the air. Silence. Then someone clapped. Then another person. Soon half the crowd was applauding, though the other half looked suspicious or annoyed. Bjorn's expression was complicated, mixing respect with confusion. General Tan stood up. He descended from the platform slowly, deliberately. Each step seemed measured, planned. When he reached me, he was close enough that I could smell the expensive oil in his hair and see the fine embroidery on his collar. "Impressive," he said. His eyes studied my face. "You have good form. Natural strength." "Thank you, sir." I bowed slightly, the way Elder Wei had taught me to show respect to superiors. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. We moved away from the crowd, toward a shaded area near the supply tents. My heart hammered in my chest. What did he want? Had I done something wrong? The general's face gave nothing away. He stopped in the shade and turned to face me fully. You want to be in the archer unit, yes? Yes, sir. Very much. The archer unit is prestigious. Selective. Not everyone who passes the basic test gets in. He paused, letting that sink in. But I can ensure your placement. My stomach twisted. Here it was. The catch. There was always a catch. What would that cost me, sir? The words felt heavy coming out. General Tansmaid. It didn't reach his eyes. 3 pieces of silver. A small investment in your future, don't you think? 3 pieces of silver. That was nearly everything I'd saved over the past year. Every odd job, every favor called in, every meal skipped to put coins aside. That silver was supposed to be for emergencies, for equipment, for surviving until I could earn a soldier's wage. But without a guaranteed spot in the archer unit, all of this meant nothing. I could pass every test and still get assigned to infantry, to logistics, to latrine duty. The military was vast and impersonal. One voice from General Tan could change everything. My throat felt dry. That's a lot of silver, sir. It is, he agreed pleasantly. But think of what you're buying. Security, position, a real future instead of leaving it all to chance. He leaned in slightly. I've seen hundreds of young men come through here. Most fade away. But you have something. Don't waste it on pride. The word pride stung. Was that what this was? Was I being stubborn over nothing? Elder Wei had taught me about honor, about doing things the right way. But he'd also taught me about survival, about picking battles wisely. I thought about returning home empty-handed, about facing my family's disappointed faces, about spending my life behind a plow instead of a bow. I'll pay it, I said quietly. General, dans mila widanat. Excellent decision. You'll go far, I think. I reached into my inner pocket where I kept the small leather pouch. My fingers fumbled with the drawstring. Inside, the silver coins clinked softly against each other. I counted them so many times I knew each one by touch. The one with the worn edge from the merchant in town. The 2 perfectly round ones from my grandfather. The slightly lighter one that might have been shaved by a dishonest trader. I pulled out 3 coins and held them out. The silver caught the light, gleaming in my palm. General Tan took them smoothly, making them disappear into his robes. Smart boy, he said. You understand how the world works. Did I? My stomach churned with something that felt like shame mixed with relief. But I pushed the feeling down. I serve at your pleasure, sir, I said, the formal words tasting strange. I hope to make the archer unit proud. To make you proud.